online broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing aftershows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows. Interviewing celebrities and showrunners. And bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Hey guys, welcome into the very first after show for I Am Cait, E's new docuseries, of course chronicling Caitlyn Jenner and her transition on camera for E, a very interesting new documentary series. I'm your host, Bobby DeMuro, joined on the panel this season, this show, by Stephaune Wallace next to me.
Yo.
Across the table, Tiona Hobson with us.
Hello.
And at the very end, looking oh so pretty, Danica Kennedy.
Oh, thank you.
Before we get going, a couple things for you guys. I think I'm gonna be nice to Danica. I feel like being mean to Tiona, so
Thanks.
We'll just do something like that. A couple things for you guys. We're gonna have a lot of fun on the show, but also obviously a lot of serious stuff, like we saw in the first episode. You can tweet us. You can live stream with us. Obviously, we're live streaming right now, so if you want to comment in the YouTube chat box, if you're watching the video, you can do that. We'll answer your questions. We'll be checking it all week, so if you see this later on in the week, we'll be checking and following up there too. Don't feel like your comments are going to get lost. And you can send us tweets at Danica Kennedy, at the Tiona Hobson, at I Am More Fire, and I am at Bobby DeMuro, so you guys can tweet us. Literally right now, we've all got our phones. So if you got questions, you got comments, we want to hear what you think. We want to hear what you have to say about this show. We want to involve you guys as much as possible. Also, when you're doing the tweeting, when you're doing the YouTube subscriptions, at AFTERBUZZ TV, every single social media outlet there can possibly be, at AFTERBUZZ TV. One more note, and I want to say it, and I hope I think I speak for all you guys with this, is hopefully this after show has some kind of a serious, we have a lot of fun, we screw around with a lot of stuff. This one's a little different, it's going to be a little more serious. And I think one thing we need to acknowledge, and they did it in the show, is I have a feeling, I know I will, I'm sure you guys will too, we might mess up and say he, we might mess up and say Bruce when it's not called. It's not a malicious thing. It's just, it's tough to get used to. So we're working through these things, obviously. We're going to talk about pronouns today, but we're working through he versus she, Bruce versus Caitlyn, stuff like that, just like Bruce's mother, Caitlyn's mother. There you go. Did Esther, just like she struggled with it, and everybody else. So I think it's a journey for all of us to a much lesser degree than the family, but it's a change for us. Okay, first things first, all three of you guys, just going to open it up before we get into the show. Initial reactions. What's the big picture?
I loved it. It was so much different than I expected. I thought that it was going to be just like the Kardashians or way closer to that, with like a plot line, with the big like crane shot swooping in, with the music. I thought it was going to be tons of hair and makeup and clothes, which they definitely incorporated in there. But it had so much more of like a serious, heartfelt note. It seemed so much more real. And there were parts that seemed like a little staged here and there, but it definitely seemed way more relatable, serious, and I actually teared up, which I was not expecting to do at all.
Yeah, I agree. I wasn't expecting the seriousness that came with this show, just because you're used to the Kardashian show where it's all, for fun and everyone's joking around and you're having these crazy plot points, and this is just serious, and I'm glad that E is doing something like this, because it's definitely something that needs to be out there, and it needs to be talked about in a positive way and in a real way too, because I always think of the Kardashian family as not a real family, but seeing everyone come to Caitlyn's side in this episode, it really makes them real people once again, which they haven't been for a while.
Yeah, sure. I actually didn't even feel like it was a Kardashian-esque anything.
Yeah.
With the exception of, obviously them having a couple cameos. I was totally in tune with I'm so curious and eager to be educated in this area. So it's I think E has done a very good job. It's very different. And I love the style of it. It's flowing really well.
And I think that's maybe one of the things. I think we're all probably at different places with knowing transgender people and being familiar with this and stuff. I'm no, none that I know of. So this
Right.
is a huge thing for me to be educated. And I think it's probably what people are going through at home too. Everybody's in a different place. Somebody is visible as the former Bruce Jenner going through this, visible for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
The Olympics, if you talk to people our parents' age, or the Kardashians, if you talk to people our age, but a very visible person going through this. I will say the way that they shot it, the style, the stuff that doesn't matter as much as the story, but it is important. The style of shooting, the way they shot interviews so close, the beauty of the shots on the mountains around Malibu, really different than the Kardashians, but also really, really obvious this is going to be serious. We take this seriously. We have a responsibility to tell this story. Really impressed with E. We're one episode in. There's a ways to go.
Yeah.
But really impressed with E. They could have, and they could still devolve into crap. It doesn't look like it's going to be that.
No, and I don't think Caitlyn wants it to be that, because I love that Caitlyn has taken it upon herself to, educate the world and to really be, it's not something that I don't think she asked to be the spokesperson for this, but it's kind of a role that she's taken under her wing, and she's doing a great job with it so far,
Sure.
educating everyone.
Yeah, she said, I just hope I get it right. I feel like I have this tremendous responsibility, and I feel the same, actually, and I don't want to put that on Caitlyn, but you kind of just do, because of the platform that formerly Bruce held. We're looking at it like, okay, well, you got to bring it. You got to tell us everything, and it's all riding kind of on her shoulders, so.
I feel like what I've been hearing about Caitlyn from the media so much lately and from everyone is she's so beautiful. She's so beautiful. She's so beautiful. And yes, she is beautiful. And I'm kind of like, welcome to being a woman in America, being judged on your look. But for the first time, like watching this episode, I really feel like I got to see Caitlyn.
Sure.
And what I mean by that is also Bruce, like the soul, the personality. I've been keeping up with the Kardashians since it began, and Bruce was, before he ever came out this way and shared this with anyone, I feel like he was like castrated by the family. Like they put him in this little corner in the garage and he wasn't allowed to do anything, and they kind of suffocated him. And for the first time, you see his soul coming out, and he feels so comfortable and happy. It's gonna get mixed up. Sorry.
Yeah, no,
But,
that's fine.
it's the same soul, the same person, and you can tell that she's so much more comfortable now. When she talks, her face lights up.
Yeah.
She's not worried about being like shut down and criticized.
Sure.
And both Bruce and Caitlyn are such inspirational, amazing, like interesting people. Fascinating people. So,
and it's kind of interesting, and this is true of all reality TV, especially the Kardashians, because they're so in focus every day. But it's interesting to see. We've seen all this stuff. We saw Vanity Fair. You got the magazine right here. This happened. So to see it come out, to know that when we were sitting, whatever day it was, it came out on a Tuesday or whatever, when we're sitting in our offices or at home and we're like, oh my gosh, Vanity Fair, this is huge. She's there in the makeup chair, doing something else, about to meet Kylie. Like, it's cool to see that stuff and go back in our minds and say, hey, 3-4 months ago, whatever, when we were there, here's what we were doing. This is what she was actually doing. This is her real reaction. It's interesting. I know that's a docuseries. That's what it is. But I really, really like it. An episode in, they're an eighth of the way there.
I thought I was going to love it or hate it, and I love it. I thought it was going to be one way or the other, and I can't wait to see more.
It still may swing the other way.
It could.
And that's nothing to be said of Caitlyn herself. It just may, I hope E continues down this respectable path. And I hope they do have fun and light scenes. There's going to be brevity. There has to be. But I hope that it's, respectful enough and they're still focused enough. Okay, let's focus in a little bit on the episode tonight. First things first, I think we've got to talk about the serious thing. Is this angle with transgender kids, transgender teens, and suicide. She brings it up right at the very start, 4:32 in the morning, can't sleep, I don't want people dying over this. And that's a theme throughout the episode. Very, very heartbreaking to see Kyler's story. And maybe I don't want to speak for you guys. Was it pandering? Was it exploitative of Kyler's story? Was the family into it? I mean, I didn't feel cheap having Kyler's mom there. I felt like it was natural enough.
Yeah, I think that I don't know much about Kyler's story. Seeing it on the episode, I remember hearing about it because it is so close to LA at San Diego. But I feel like Kyler's mom is someone who's out there pushing and trying to get more focus on this issue. So that's why it felt authentic to me, and it didn't feel staged or like Caitlyn was intruding on the family in any way. And if they had kept maybe the rest of the family there, it might have felt that way. But because it was the mom and she's sitting there sharing her story and, you know, just everything that happened within their family, and it was just very nice to see that aspect of it. And it's very nice to keep something very real in it too. And it's not, like we've been saying, it's not just all about, oh, Caitlyn's beautiful. Caitlyn had to get into 3 different cars just to get down there because she didn't want the paparazzi there. She wanted it to be an isolated incident where, you know, they could just be real and authentic to themselves.
Go ahead.
No, I'm well, I would say this whole thing it just feels like we get to peek behind this veil, you know, and it's all very interesting and it's all very new for us as an experience, you know. Even going down to hear Kyler Prescott's story for me was like just taking this journey through a child's life that I truly can't identify with. I don't understand. So I feel like it was necessary to have something like that in there that's separate from Bruce, but causing us to understand that this is a real issue. You know, I just I appreciated it.
And this is going to sound a little funny, but not that Caitlyn is coming down to the people, but I think the metaphor of where she lives, kind of the castle on the hill,
Absolutely.
living alone, and then you come down, you take 3 cars, which I think is a great point, a great symbol for how much she didn't want to make this about herself.
Sure.
But that metaphor of coming down the hill and you have to go to a real person in a real neighborhood with a real problem. A kid is dead. You know, you have problems. Caitlyn has a tough-ass journey, and we're going to see it.
Yeah.
This is a different journey, and it's on another level. And Caitlyn comes down and sees it and lives it and has to experience it herself as much as she can. That's reality for her, and by extension, it's reality for us.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think a lot of people expected I Am Cait to be kind of like, look at me, I want attention kind of thing. And I think that Caitlyn has a huge heart and is using this show and using herself as a platform to, you know, bring awareness, not in any way like shame these families or anything, but to be like, we have to stop this. This is a huge problem that people are going through. And this is kind of like a little tangent, but I want to bring it up to you guys because there's all this transgender stuff in the media right now and people changing sexes. It's kind of like a wealthy person, not issue, but you have to have money to do it, definitely.
Sure.
And people are also changing their races now. And to me, I think you can change your sex surgically, but you can't change your genetics or where you came from. So it's just like I think there's blurred lines for a lot of people with that, but I think they're very separate issues and they've both been in the media a lot recently. I know that's like totally a tangent.
No, I don't think it's a tangent at all. I think it's absolutely related in that way that people are trying to figure out, and Caitlyn used this term several times, authentic self. You're trying to be your authentic self, and everybody's on this journey. And listen, we all do it. Let's talk about doing it as us on camera versus us in real life.
Oh, yeah.
We don't act this way in real life. We're jerks in real life. I'm just
Totally.
kidding.
But speak for yourself. I'm an angel.
Well, except for Tiona, she's a leader among men and women. But we all present one way, and then we are another. And for most of us, it is not like Caitlyn. It is not like Kyler. The presentation and the reality are pretty similar. But there's always differences. And I think the biggest thing with that authentic self, and she mentioned it a couple times, is empathy. The word that she used, I'm so glad you used the right one. It's not sympathy. You don't feel bad for them. It's empathy. You literally feel for them. You want them to feel good. Anybody, not, them pejoratively. You want somebody to feel good because when they don't feel good, you don't feel good. And the more empathy we have in this society, in our community, the nicer everybody's going to get. I know that sounds kind of hippie, but that's truth.
It's truth. And one of the things that Kyler's mom said was that Kyler didn't have a problem being bullied at school. It was the adults who were the issue of accepting Kyler for...
Which is crazy.
Yeah, which is crazy
so
to me
sad.
because all you hear about is, oh, kids can be so cruel. But then it's also not crazy because I look at, my own family and, just older people in general, and they're set in their ways,
of
and
course.
things are changing at a dramatic rate for them. And it's like, if you think about it, my grandparents were alive when we didn't have any rights.
Right,
It's like
slavery.
everything
It's
has
wild.
changed, and it's wild and it's crazy, and it's accepting all this stuff that's coming at you. And I think that kids are very open to this because it's something that they're aware of from a young age now.
Sure.
It's not, oh, my my uncle's friend. It's like, oh yes, my gay uncle and his partner. You know, it's like people are more open with that with their kids now.
Absolutely.
So I mean, it was just shocking to me. I was glad that Kyler's mom said that part, that it's the adults.
Yeah, and I mean, for that same reason, though, I feel like it shouldn't be shocking. I feel like one of the guys that I really felt for, you know, that touched me was looking at Kyler's dad, because as a father, you know, and I'm not one, but I'm just trying to imagine you have a child and you're going through this, and from a male perspective, how tough that must be for kind of what you've helped to create to sort of reject that creation, you know, or that gender or whatever. And I do feel like for adults, you know, I think that the adults in this scenario that they're talking about are acting a little bit immature as far as how they're treating, or how Kyler was treated. But I do think it would be a lot tougher as an adult person just in this world existing, already knowing how or what the norm has been, for you to say, hey, I need you to be accepting. I get that word, and I definitely feel like that's what needs to happen. But at the same time, I'm also like, there has to be some sort of leeway to give you an opportunity to grow and to evolve. You know, I feel like Caitlyn's mom she discussed kind of that give me that period, and I don't think she really had, you know, much of a period. You know, Bruce, he held a lot back from the mom, so she had to live her life kind of in the dark, and then all of a sudden it's like, you know, surprise, here I go, I'm going through this process, you know, and I need you to be accepting. That's tough.
Yeah, he called himself an isolationist before, and that's what I meant earlier, how he kind of was like that on the Kardashians, though, where he like hid out and like had this wall up for everyone, and now that's down, which is awesome.
And I wonder this because we see it with Esther, we see it with Caitlyn's mom, we see it with the dad, Kyler's father. I know we were given his name and I'm forgetting it now. But it would be hard not to think, to your point, that you're a failure.
Sure.
You know? Not that you're not accepting of your son or your daughter and whatever the transition becomes, but you're a failure because you created something, you put all your heart into something, and they openly reject it. And they say, this isn't me. And you say, well, wait a minute, was it something I did? You know? Yeah. And I think you could see the wheels turning in Esther's head the whole episode.
Absolutely.
To say, did I do something? Mm-hmm. That clothes thing, they talk about the clothes when Caitlyn was a child, when Bruce was a child. They talk about the clothes, and you could see the wheels turning. And that's the other side of empathy. It's not just empathy for Caitlyn or what would have been for Kyler, what should have been for Kyler. It's the empathy for like Esther to say, you didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
You didn't do anything wrong. You didn't, you know, make her this way. It's not about that, but it's hard to get there.
Yeah. Because she's replaying everything in her mind, every moment that she spent with her child, thinking, should I have asked him more questions about why he didn't want to get in those clothes? Should there have been a longer conversation about it? You know, she's just re-questioning all of her parenting skills right now. And
did I miss it?
Yeah.
Was there signs there that I should have been? And she's asking Susan, the lady who's kind of an expert in this area. She's like, you know, was I missing it? One of the quotes she said, which like killed me, is she said, you know, you felt uncomfortable with me. And I felt like that was her trying to identify that rejection. You know, her trying to say, not necessarily uncomfortable telling me, but you just felt uncomfortable with what I did, you know, how I made you. Mm-hmm. And that kills me to, you know, have a mom feeling that way.
And imagine being her. I mean, look at how old Caitlyn is. Like, this happened very late in Bruce and Caitlyn's life. Yeah. And for Kyler, what was she, 14, 13, just 14. Made the transition. It broke my heart when they said they ordered the new birth certificate and it came in right after he died. It was so sad. So it's mind-boggling, though, for Esther, I'm sure, because she has so many memories over 60-something years of being a mom. It's wild.
And it's just crazy, too, because let's think about it for us, too. When I heard about Caitlyn, you know, making the decision to transition, and we saw the Vanity Fair, and we're like, this is amazing. But even for me, I had that moment of selfishness of, like, wait a second, how do I process this? Because you were just Bruce Jenner on the Kardashians last week.
Yeah.
And this week you're coming to me as Caitlyn Jenner. So if I'm having those selfish reactions in myself, I can't imagine what it's like for the family. But I have a brother who came out to my family, and my mom's biggest thing was just, I'm hurt that you didn't feel like you could come to me sooner and tell me sooner about who you are, because I'm going to love you regardless. You know, he had come out to me and my other siblings, but he hadn't come out to my parents, and that was just their biggest reaction. So seeing Esther's reaction, I was like, it makes sense in my mind now of, you know, kind of, it's not on the same situation at all, but it's like kind of what my parents were going through of like, hey, we're your parents and we created you, and the fact that you didn't feel comfortable enough to come with us with a problem from the moment you figured it out, like that hurts them.
And I think that's an indictment on not the parenting, but the culture and the community at large. And Susan talks about that. When you're a little kid, you see this isn't normal, I gotta blend in. And then that snowballs, and for formerly Bruce, that snowballed into being the greatest athlete in the world.
Right.
And so you have this, the greatest male athlete in the world. So you have this, the dichotomy only expands. You don't just have, hey, it's a man becoming a woman. No. It's the pinnacle of masculinity. Literally, it's for younger
the
people.
Manliest guy.
Yeah, it's Michael Phelps of 1970s. That's what it is. And it's, if Michael Phelps tomorrow went through this, our generation would say, where the hell did this? Because that's
Left
the
field.
culture. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And so you have that becoming a woman. And from our perspective, it's shocking enough. From Esther's perspective, she watches him on the podium and talks about that and tears up. She watches all these things. She's so proud of him, and then has to turn around and say, wait a second. So you were literally, quite literally, running away from it at that point. And I know that Caitlyn talked about that in her Diane Sawyer interview. You were running so hard away from the woman thing. You wanted to be the perfect man. It'll go away. And then lo and behold, it ain't going away.
And also 10 kids later, I mean, not just being the perfect man, you're being the man, you know?
The man.
And a really
babies.
successful career, and all these really, really, really successful things. Everything is above board and great, and then this one thing that just will not go away.
Sure.
It keeps gnawing. And I think, and I hope that it'd be one thing if somebody who had been through, you know, I don't know what, or whatever a normal life is, but I hope that because Caitlyn, because former Bruce has had such success in every area of life, and yet has still struggled so hard with this, I hope folks who are on the fence look at it and say, you know what? Looked like you had the perfect life. Turns out it was terrible. It was terrible for 65 years because of this one thing, and that underscores how important this one thing is. Even if I don't get it, I see how important it is to you.
Yeah. Suffering.
But, maybe I'm being optimistic, but I hope that would be, if you're skeptical,
and I think that's the point of this whole thing going down. It was tough to hear that 35 years ago he kind of told Pam about it, or maybe I guess he did tell Pam about it, and also Lisa, I don't know if Lisa's absence meant that she wasn't as understanding, because you notice Pam was in a lot.
Yeah.
But Lisa was like, hey, I'm here, but I'm not really 100% on board. I thought that was a big deal.
And her comments were like, I'm just still going to see Bruce, pretty much. Like,
right.
They weren't like, oh my gosh, I love Caitlyn. It was just focusing on, like, I only see my brother.
Sure.
And then they cut her out.
Yeah. And, you know, that could be part of the editing, or that could be, you know, she doesn't, and she's not on board, which I don't think anybody should be faulted for, you know, having to go through their transition of understanding or acceptance, or just kind of coming to grips with this whole thing, you know?
I think that's actually a real fair point. And if that were the case, and we don't know it, but if that were the case about Lisa, I'd actually love to hear that story.
Yeah.
Because it's real valuable for somebody to stand up and say, you know what, I'm cool with you doing what you do, but it's strange. It's valuable for somebody to say that, because a lot of people watching this, a lot of us, I know me at points in the last couple months when Caitlyn's been Caitlyn, the last couple months I've sat literally at home out of the blue and been thinking about it, been like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's not, I'm not malicious about it. I'm not saying you can't allow, you know, go for it, man. But it's different. And I think when you talk about those things and you say, you know what, I'm having XYZ problem, chat it out, show it out, because the transgender kid at home, the kid, you know, the brother or sister of a gay person or a transgender person at home is going to have the same questions. So if you're going to show Esther struggle with it, if you're going to show Pam struggle with it, if this were the case with Lisa or anybody else, Chloe, I know they mentioned a couple of the Kardashians who were struggling with it.
Yeah.
I would love to see one of them come on and actually have a substantive discussion about it. I know they can do it. The Kardashians are not dumb.
Yeah.
I know what they want you to think, but they're not. I mean, they're intelligent and they're empathetic. I would love to have one of them on and do it.
Well,
And
this is
I think
as
it's
smart
necessary.
as it's been. Like, how like real was it this time? Like, Caitlyn actually said that she's tried to commit suicide in the past, and Bruce had such an amazing career and so much success, so much money. Like, it's wild to like open up that way to so many people and just say screw it and make that change.
I mean, what's the Jim Carrey quote? He says something like, "I wish everybody could have, X million of dollars, but you see, it doesn't matter. It doesn't fix your problems."
And he used to be homeless when he first moved here, so that means a lot from him.
Exactly. This is a case. This doesn't, this doesn't fix your problems. Now we have to acknowledge money doesn't fix the problems, but it makes it better.
Totally.
Your influence, your money, your rank, it puts you on Vanity Fair. It gets you looking the way you look. You have the surgeries that you have.
The makeup, the clothes, the surgeries, the hair, everything.
And not the cheap surgeries that are botched in like in a some foreign country that you have to go to and like you end up dead from that. Like, this is legit good stuff from the best people. Yep. The best medical team that you could have.
It also sounds like Kim found this, this was all going down, and she was like, "Hold on a sec, we're taking you to the right people." That's what it sounds like, pretty much. She's like, "If you're gonna do this, you better look hot. Like, you got to get the right makeup artist."
Sure.
And that's it. This is an exercise in branding. Let's be real.
Yeah.
There's really serious components to it. There's totally authentic components to it. I'm not skeptical enough. I don't think any of us are, or we wouldn't be doing the show. But there are branding components. This is the Kardashian Jenner family.
Yeah.
Kylie coming in
to promote her hairline.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Kylie. I mean, Caitlyn at first is just like, Khloe hasn't stopped by, Courtney, Rob, no one's come to meet me yet. And then Kylie just finally came over. That was her first time.
Sure.
And then, of course, it's like Bellini hair clip-ins, which I was kind of like, ooh, I want those. It works. The product placement works. I need some now.
Absolutely.
And they talked about it. I remember Caitlyn talking about it very briefly in the Diane Sawyer interview, saying, I effectively, not verbatim, saying, I know who I am. I know what family I'm part of. I get it. And I think the more you acknowledge it, the more above board it is, the cooler we all are of it. If you tried to lie and said, no, this isn't branding at all, this is just the transition. Bullshit.
No, nobody would say that. But I guess what's tough in my education of this whole thing is, we're talking about these teens that are out there that are dying, they're going through all these different things and, committing suicide, being bullied. And I'm wondering how, because we discussed the finances that Bruce had to make this transition, there are these teens who are less fortunate, obviously. So how does that work for them? I know that they're maybe feeling inside that they would like to look a different way, but it's like when I was on the Kardashians and I was saying, it's unrealistic for these people out here that are watching you to try to keep up with that, So it's same here. I'm going, yeah, I know you want to trans your gender, but how much does that cost?
Tons.
A lot.
You know what I'm
money.
saying? It's super expensive. So
you can only do it if you have money. Really.
And that's wild.
And people save up their whole lives for it. There's stories of adults who finally got the surgeries, but it took them from saving up from when they were, 13 years old and knew it's something they wanted to do. They had to save up the money just to get to that point where they were able to do it. So that's why it is a blessing that, Caitlyn does have the success and is able to do it and in the right way. And hopefully, we don't know what's going to happen, but hopefully part of her being out there will help with these kids to, in some way, maybe she can help them out or, just some way to give back.
Yeah. Okay.
And chances are, if you're watching this after show, if you're watching I Am Cait, I think the majority of people who watch that show and this are going to be very familiar with the Kardashians. So you follow the news. You've seen it. Caitlyn's gone to a lot of, let's say lower middle class youths and groups and things like that, and she needs to keep doing that because she needs to understand and check the privilege and say, hey, I'm not belittling her journey at all. This is really tough, but a lot of the extraneous things around this journey have made it really easy. The money, the time, the ability for privacy and stuff like that when you need it, not just from the paparazzi, but where you live, how you live, the ability to go away and disappear if you need to, the ability to rely on a family that's way more understanding than maybe a lot of families in this situation. She's
not to mention the hair and makeup. They got a girl and 2 girls that were in the house. I can't remember their names, but
Rhonda and Courtney with a C, Courtney.
Yeah. So they're in there. I mean, they're making sure she looks great all the time. You know, it's just not realistic for those who we're talking about that are suffering.
You know, let me ask you guys though, does that idea, this is not realistic for, 99% of people who are struggling with this, maybe 99.9%. Does that make you mad? Or do you sit here and say, you know what, it's not realistic, but she has such a pedestal, use it?
I'm thinking more pedestal, use it,
Yep.
because it's something that isn't out. It's out there in the media, but it's all the negative stuff. It's all the violence that comes with it. It's all the attacks and reporting of that instead of in the suicides. And it's not a positive light. And hopefully what this will do is shed the positive light and help people become more understanding of it. I hope that people my parents' age and my grandparents' age are watching this show so that they can understand the community more. Because it's not about, whatever it's about them learning from it and getting unstuck from their ways and just learning more, I guess, is just what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
This has been a big process that Caitlyn's been going through, but really it was probably harder for Bruce to go through, not sharing this with the world. And I don't know if this is just me because I happen to know very open-minded, liberal, friendly people, but I've barely seen anything negative about Caitlyn. All of my Facebook and Twitter, everything's look how beautiful she is. You go, girl. This is great. And I know there's people out there that are trolling and just being awful and horrible, but I really haven't seen much of it.
I've seen a lot of it.
You have?
Yeah.
With the SB stuff is when I started seeing a lot of it.
Well, I don't know if everybody's is trolling. I feel like we have to accept the fact that there is a whole other side to this situation. I myself am of course, anything you want to do, you do, Caitlyn. That more power to you.
You be you, girl.
You be you.
Yeah, you're not. My life does not change at all. Your life, who cares? Go for it.
But I know, and especially in even my family, my own personal family, I know they probably would feel like this is a circus. This is something that Bruce's mom brought up. The Bible. There are a lot of. And I looked up that scripture, Deuteronomy 22:5. Didn't even know it exists. Thank you. He was like, what about the scripture? You can't dress like a woman. And I was like, is that really a scripture? It is.
I was like, is it?
It is. Deuteronomy 22:5. And it's talking directly against this sort of scenario. I'm not an Old Testament guy, but I get people who are and who are kind of stuck in that religion, and it's going to be difficult for them to make a transition or understand or be accepting. So
I love that Stephaune has on a shirt that says "Come as you are."
Yes, I bought it. I bought it because of this meaning.
That's amazing.
Sorry, I just was reading your shirt when you were talking. I was like, that's actually a very appropriate shirt.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So let me ask you guys a question. Who do you think this show is for?
Everybody.
But more specifically though, because it's on TV, anybody can watch it. But demographic wise, forget I just mean the contents of this show, the way the first episode went down. Who is this show trying to appeal to?
Kanye said it, and you know how much of a genius I feel like Kanye West is. And I don't mean that facetiously. I really do feel like
I am facetious on that. But
I hope everyone saw my eye roll when you said that.
Jesus.
For real. Back up off.
Okay, next week we're going to sit on pro Kanye versus anti Kanye.
Yeah, we got to go pro Kanye.
Stephaune all alone.
No, but Kanye he alluded to this being, one of the biggest moments in history, one of the biggest moments in our lifetime. And I think our lifetime means everybody, whether you are a young person who's very open or one of Danica's friends who seemingly are happy people and accepting of all things, or, you're like folks that I know that are, they really feel anti-change or difference, and it's not, to be hateful or malicious. It's just like, wait, what is that? That's other. No. X that out. That's something you need to deal with in your own mind. Watching the ESPYs, and I don't want to put anybody out there, but I watched very objectively to see what was going on, and I watched how a lot of athletes, which are mainly predominantly African American. If y'all ain't know that, y'all should figure it out. And I watched I watched their faces as Caitlyn made her speech and said certain things, and I can tell that they were very calm to make sure not to make a showing, because obviously you can be seen, you're a public figure, blah blah blah. But I can see a lot of people that were either disinterested or in disagreement with what was going on or what was being said, or in disgust. Those are my 3 disses. I don't know why I did 3 disses.
Discord.
In discord, sowing discord amongst brethren. But I can tell that, they were feeling a way, and they're going to say what they want to say behind the scenes. So I feel like it's for everybody, to get back to your question, because there are people out there that just don't get it. And until you can see how somebody's mom is having to deal with it, how families are having to deal with it, how this can maybe touch home for you too, you're never going to get over that wall, that hurdle.
So demographic family show.
Ah,
I think absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, I think absolutely. You gonna say something?
No, I wasn't.
Oh, okay. Well, that got me thinking, because the mom is a real challenging one. Esther's a real challenging one, because it's so real at that point. Because when the 3 of you saw Esther struggling, what did you think of? Your mother.
Yeah.
Right?
Totally.
Didn't you think
you
your
gotta
mom?
think mom.
Absolutely. And you were like, if I ever went through
you went
this,
through it.
or even if it wasn't this, even if it was anything, anything tough, you can only imagine. I believe we are 0 for 4 on having kids, so we only have to imagine with our parents, kids that we know of, Stephaune. But I believe we have to imagine, people closest to us, parents, brothers, sisters. Mm-hmm. And if we did something wrong, this isn't wrong, but if we did something wrong, if we did something that was tough, if we hurt somebody, whatever, and to imagine them struggling, and I look at Esther and I'm like, that's how my parents would react. Confusion and hurt and anger and disbelief and all these different emotions. And I see Esther, and in a weird way, I felt like I was pretty accepting of this beforehand, but in a weird way, I almost became more accepting of Caitlyn, more into Caitlyn, because of Esther, because it was like, this is the person. If this is her problem, who cares if I accept Caitlyn?
Right,
this is
right.
an Esther thing.
Yeah. And even she kind of had to, she was convincing herself in a way at one moment. She was like, I'm going to be okay with this. Yeah. I'm going to be, she kept repeating it. And I was like, I feel like she's trying to convince herself like she is okay with it, but we all have those moments where, it's very real. It's like, yes, I'm accepting of you, Caitlyn, but even I have questions. I don't know anyone who's gone through this before. So, even in our minds, there's so many questions that are going on in our minds and our brains. And this is Caitlyn's mother. So you can only take what I'm feeling and multiply it by 1,000,000. And that's where you get to her feelings for it.
Sure.
But I loved seeing her talk herself into it.
Yeah.
That's not the right way to say it, but it was almost like she was talking herself into it. She's like, I'm gonna love my children no matter what. But it's still a hurdle for her to get over of accepting.
Especially because even if your kid changes just their name, I'm sure that would be hard. It's like, I picked that name out for you. And I raised you, and now you just want to throw that name away? I've been calling you that for 60 years. You know, that part alone, apart from the sex change, is already probably mind-boggling for a parent to go through.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of therapy for everybody. I think everyone needs it. So if you ain't never done it, go get it. Find a therapist to get in there. I love that Caitlyn brought in Susan to kind of help his mom along. Just blurt out everything, ask anything. There's no question that's a silly question. Nothing's off base. Ask anything, and I felt like that was a really good idea or just being sensitive. Caitlyn was to her mom, to give her that opportunity. I'm sure we couldn't watch everything, so they had to edit it down to maybe 1 or 2 questions. But having Susan there, hopefully explaining, from a perspective of understanding, hey, this is kind of what's going on. I would love to have heard that entire sit down.
Well, and I hope we get more Esther.
I think we will. I hope we do. And I hope that we get more pushback. Here's the thing. When you push back on Caitlyn, you're not necessarily, just because you disagree with it, just because you struggle with it, doesn't make you a bigot. Doesn't make you an asshole. There are certainly bigoted things people can say about this, but a lot of the pushback, it's not bigoted, it's not stupid, it's a conversation we as a society should be having about this and about a bunch of other things that require, a little more tolerance than we probably give them.
Yeah.
And I think the more pushback we see on the show, the more open and valuable of a conversation we can have off the show without immediately devolving into, you don't accept Caitlyn, you're a bigot. Yeah, well, you accept Caitlyn, well, you're just like, a slippery slope, man, and whatever the stupid arguments are. It's not about that. It's a better conversation. We can have it. I know it's, internet comments and YouTube comments, and I have very little faith in some of those communities.
Yeah.
But there's still good things that can happen in places like that. And
It
I think a
opens
show
dialogue.
like this, if you open it and you do it the right way, you're looking at literally changing the world, as hokey as it may sound.
And
As Kanye said, go ahead.
That's Kanye.
well, speaking of being open and asking all these questions, I feel like the big question that's got to be on everyone's mind is what's still going on down there.
I was going to ask you
And
guys
it's an
why.
inappropriate question to ask people. It's really like jumping into people's privacy, where it's kind of rude to be like, so do you have a penis? Do you have a vagina? Like, what's going on down there? And you don't want to just ask anyone about that, but I know we're all wondering it. You were wondering it. In the little tennis skirt, you're like, what's going to happen
100%,
down there?
but let me throw it back to you. Because Caitlyn has sought out a reality show, do you lose the right to some privacy about questions like that?
I think so.
Absolutely.
I think so many people want answers, and I think that will help them wrap their head around it
Absolutely.
better. And I wonder if they're going to cover it on the show, and I hope they do.
Yeah.
I think she's going to get it taken care of.
I think I heard something about, bathing suits in this season. So, that's when my mind kind of went like, oh, I wonder.
Things got to be different.
Yeah, what's going to happen if she decides to get in a bathing suit for the first time, what will happen. But one of the other things that I love about Caitlyn right now, just going back to her personality, she, as a host, I'm always looking at people and their interviewing skills. She's interviewed every person she sat down with. She interviewed Esther. The question she's asking and the way she's getting people to open up with her is so brilliant, and it's so beautiful that even I'm sitting here learning from her. I was like, oh my gosh, why don't you have a talk show, Caitlyn?
And do you mean the fist on the cheek right here too?
Yeah, just
sitting on the couch casually,
and
doing one of
then
those.
she's just like, okay, so like let's get the dialogue open. And the way she even talked to Kyler's mom, it's just everything that she was doing. I was like, oh my gosh, like you're getting these people to open up even more to you.
Sure.
You know what to do, you know how to make them feel at ease, and for people to feel at ease, especially Kyler's mom with a stranger, and Esther with her former son, now daughter, to be able to open up in front of that person is just an amazing skill that I have to compliment Caitlyn on.
She's an amazing host and public speaker. And Bruce was public speaking for years and years, and I hear that Caitlyn is like double the price now than Bruce ever was.
You
it's
could
pretty
imagine.
insane.
Yeah, that matters. You're talking about the Jenner Kardashian family. That matters.
That's the brand you were
That's a
talking
good
about
transition,
earlier,
though.
too.
Let's talk a couple of the more frivolous things. Got
The dresses?
Couple minutes left. Yeah, I want to talk dresses, Kim and Kanye. First off, where do we start with Kanye? I wish there was somebody on this panel who liked him, but since there's not, I guess we gotta move along to the next thing.
I love that they
shut
showed
his
they,
mic off right now.
I love
Go
that
for
he
it.
was like that little. He really did.
Rejection hurts.
They gave us that little insight to interracial dating, which if you haven't done it, you wouldn't understand this. As an African American male dating outside his race, you meet families, and they're trying to find a way to connect to something that they maybe don't understand. So she's like, "Oh, what are those things doing untied
your shoes are untied."
And he's like, "Oh yeah, She's like, "Oh, they're light. Oh, I just want to be cool. I just want to be cool." And I was like,
The whitest thing
I've
to say.
heard this in so many households. You would not believe it.
But you don't think it goes the other way too?
As far as what? If it was like what?
If it were flipped, a white
Black people
person-
ain't trying to be cool.
In my personal
Swag
life, if one of my family members brought home a person of the Caucasian ethnicity, my family's not going to try and white it up for you at all.
Nope.
If anything, we're going to get more black on you just to like see how you...
So you can run or you can stay. You want to be down with this or no?
Or no.
Okay.
I mean, but I've been in those situations too where, you know, I've gone to even just a friend's house and it's automatically like, oh, what's up, homie? You know, you get those awkward situations of like, yeah, I'm good.
I think
like,
that does happen in friendship. Even friends' parents are like,
yeah,
oh yeah, I like Tiona. She's so well spoken.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's the worst.
Yes, that is.
That's
ouch.
I've gotten that a lot in my life. Thank you.
And the funny
you
thing
are
is,
well
You actually are very well spoken.
You're a host, so it's okay.
I can say that.
Thank you.
you guys walked all over my joke. I was gonna burn her so hard.
Thank you for walking over that because Bobby.
We're here to lift up.
We're gonna
and
love each
accept.
other.
No, we probably won't.
Okay.
Second frivolous question, but the funny is here. You have to bring the funny. If it's going to be serious the whole time, that's a drag. Kim dresses. I love Kim, the fashion designer, just turns on.
Oh, yeah.
And so you're like, Caitlyn, this is amazing. I'm going to meet you. Okay, these color patterns, this is great.
They finally have something to bond on. She didn't care about the airplanes or tennis, anything like that. This is perfect. She can tell him how to contour.
But she's still the boss all the time.
All the time.
She's like pushing her around. I'm sorry, and she's all like, no, not this. Yes, that. Scratch, burn, wear. I'm like,
Mom has that.
She got that from your boy Kanye there. Remember when Kanye sweeped her closet, was like, ew, we're burning all of this. And now she's like fashionista nonstop.
I think my favorite scene in this whole thing, end of the day, years from now, I'll still say this, is the Kanye and Kim scene with Pam, with Caitlyn. Because can you imagine the conversation Kim had with Kanye going in? She's like, well, we're going to go to Caitlyn's, and we're just going to have like a sit down, a get together. And so you've got Kanye, fashion designer, rapper, all this stuff. And he's just like going to a buddy's house for the day. And then he leaves. Did you catch his wave when he leaves? He gives him kind of the two-finger wave. Yeah. He's such a normal person. I was like, if Kanye had to go to now that they have children, if Kanye had to go to like a soccer game or a PTA meeting, that's the Kanye you're gonna see.
He's so calm now.
Yeah.
He's not as angry and angsty as he used to be. It's because of the kid.
That's what love will do to you.
Yeah, babies will change you.
All those babies.
I love
Stephaune, do you know about this from personal experience?
No, I haven't changed yet. I haven't had to change.
Not yet.
I don't think Bobby buys it.
No, I was just gonna wait for the awkward pause and see how you reacted, but that told me everything I needed to know.
Yeah.
Okay, last thoughts. We can't really do predictions on the show because hell, you guys already know what's going on. I guess final thoughts, biggest takeaway for all you guys. What's popping up?
I'm still thinking a lot. I mean, we didn't really touch on it, but as far as your now sexual preference for dating, I think it's still a question mark for me. You know, we touched a little, maybe the snip on the way, but why the snip? So you've transgendered. Is it now that you like men? Is that just to be assumed?
No.
Because I don't assume that.
Still likes women.
Yeah, she said she still likes women, but maybe that changes. Maybe it evolves. I mean, who knows?
But it could be a transgender woman.
Yeah.
That was a man originally and is now a woman.
Which would confuse the hell out of me right now.
Yeah, I know. It's kind
like
of
y'all
mind-boggling.
wanted
Well, there's rumors
Freaky
about
Friday is what it is
Caitlyn
now.
maybe into this other transgender woman, but I think she's still into women and just identifies as one.
So I guess
lesbian?
on that, I would say, wouldn't you keep the package? If you're into women, you
tits and a dick.
Yeah.
I mean,
you're right.
it's your choice.
Everything's what you got. Everything now.
Yeah, sure. But I think that's the thing. It doesn't matter. Like, who cares
Except
what
the vagina.
Well, she's gonna provide. Y'all.
But it's like, who cares what the word is for it? It's like, if you like this person and you like that person, go for it. You know what I mean? If it's consensual, who cares?
Just like
Go
who
for
you
it.
like.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think that is a valid question. Like, can you answer that question? Even if the answer is, I don't know. It's evolving. I'm trying to figure that out. That's a valid answer.
And whoever I'm attracted to, that's what happens when it happens organically.
And I know that we don't feel this way because we are four unbelievably shallow people. But you could be attracted to more than just the physical side. You can like somebody's mind.
Sure.
Did you guys know that that's allowed?
Really?
I had no idea.
Wow.
I only
know that
date
either.
girls for their minds.
Is that what you call it?
Not with that gross look.
That was so disgusting, right?
It was so
Tongue
gross.
bite.
It was the emoticon. I had that emoticon in my mind. It's
They
like
felt that through their
smiling and
screens,
winking.
through
With
their
the,
headphones.
That was the creepiest thing you've ever seen in your life. I highly suggest you go onto YouTube if you're listening right now, just to see Stephane's face in that moment.
it
If that
into
doesn't
a
give
gift
you
for
nightmares,
us.
I don't know what will.
don't make me that old man in the club that's trying to like, hey girl,
Creepy uncle.
I was gonna say, if you were listening to the podcast and not watching the video, you're welcome. On that note, because this is a new show, if you haven't already, if you are new to AfterBuzz, and maybe there are a lot of people out there who might be for this show, hit subscribe on iTunes and YouTube wherever you are watching. We'll be back obviously every Sunday night, and I mentioned at the top of the show, but Twitter, Instagram, all that good stuff. If you guys want to get into contact with us, Danica, I'll let you go first. Where can they get you?
You can find me all over social media at Danica Kennedy.
And I'm on Facebook and Twitter. Nope, I'm on Twitter and Instagram at the Tiona Hobson.
I just want to say thank you guys for letting me be a part of this panel. I can be found on Instagram and Twitter at I Am More Fire.
He's thanking us because he may not be back next week. I'm on Twitter at Bobby DeMuro, on Instagram at Mr. Bobby DeMuro. And again, comment on YouTube. We'll check this thing all week. Tweet us. We would love to talk with you guys. We'll be back next Sunday with more I Am Cait right here on AfterBuzz. Guys, have a great week and good night.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.